Welcome back, everyone. Today we're taking a close look at a case that is, well, it's as deeply harrowing as it is procedurally complex. In this explainer, we're unpacking the dark dossier surrounding the disappearance of Mamta Kafle Bhatt. This is a case that has completely gripped a community, and it presents this fascinating yet undeniably tragic look into modern forensic investigation. My goal for us today is to guide you through the concrete details, the timelines, and the profound legal questions at the very heart of this ongoing mystery. And we're going to do this by relying entirely on the documented evidence.
Okay, let's dive into this. There are basically three central pillars to this unfolding mystery. First, we have a missing 28-year-old mother and registered nurse who just vanished from her life in Manassas, Virginia. Second, there's an incredibly dense trail of digital and physical evidence left in the wake of her disappearance. And third, and honestly, this is the most chilling and legally complicated pillar of all, there is no body. Now, as you can imagine, this creates an incredibly high-stakes scenario for investigators and prosecutors. They have to piece together a massive puzzle where the absolute most critical piece is entirely absent.
So let's quickly trace how this all unfolded because the timeline here is absolutely crucial. On July 27th, Mamta was last seen at her workplace, the UVA Health Prince William Medical Center. 2 days later, on the 29th, she has a video call with her mother in Nepal. And her mother actually noted later that Mamta appeared unusually gloomy during that chat. Now look closely at this gap right before August 1st. Mamta misses several shifts at the hospital. But here's what's deeply suspicious. The welfare check wasn't initiated by her husband. No, it was initiated by her worried colleagues. That completely uncharacteristic silence from Mamta is what finally prompted police to arrive at the Bhatt home on August 2nd.
Which brings us to our next section, a web of lies.
Right away, the investigation pivoted to Mamta's husband, Naresh Bhatt. When police arrived for that August 2nd welfare check, his demeanor and the explanations he gave started raising massive red flags almost instantly. He was remarkably calm. He told officers she had postpartum psychosis and might be in a hospital. Later, he actually claimed she ran away to Texas or New York after getting her green card and even threw out the idea that she destroyed her own phone. But here's what the evidence shows. The reality told a completely different story. Investigators found absolutely zero local hospital records matching Mamta. He never filed a missing persons report, and instead of being out searching for his wife, surveillance footage caught him repeatedly washing his blue Tesla in the days right after she disappeared. The inconsistencies here are literally glaring.
Let's follow that evidence into Section 3, the forensic trail.
That stark contrast between what he was saying and what he was actually doing, well, it forced investigators to dig a whole lot deeper into the surveillance data. And moving step by step through it, a chilling circumstantial picture really starts to emerge. Step 1. On July 30th, so the day after Mamta's last known call with her mom, Naresh is seen at Walmart buying 3 knives, carpet cleaner, and air fresheners. Step 2. He heads over to Home Depot, where cameras catch him buying 40 heavy-duty, extra-strong trash bags and rubber gloves. Then Step 3. He travels to Falls Church, where surveillance catches him taking bags from his car and tossing them into a trash compactor. Individually, each of these purchases might be totally innocent, but sequentially, they build an incredibly grim narrative.
And this physical timeline was perfectly backed up by a digital footprint. Actually, this is exactly why this case is so fascinating in our modern era. Our cars and our phones have basically become these silent, unblinking witnesses to our lives.
Early on July 31st, Naresh's cell phone was powered off or inactive. Now, 20 years ago, that might have given him a solid alibi, or at least created a dead end for police. But his Tesla had its own GPS tracking data. So even with his phone completely off, the car was logging his exact movements. It showed him arriving at that Falls Church trash compactor in the dead of night, right between 3:42 and 4:11 a.m. The digital vehicle data perfectly locked in with the physical surveillance footage of him tossing those heavy-duty bags. It completely unraveled his timeline.
So this incredibly precise digital mapping eventually led authorities right back to the Bhatt home. On August 21st, 2024, police executed a massive search warrant. And guys, this was the absolute turning point of the entire investigation. Hidden right there among ordinary household tools, investigators found something that would change the trajectory of this case forever: a reciprocating saw.
The discoveries inside that home were, quite frankly, gruesome. Investigators uncovered pools of dried blood concealed underneath the carpet in the master bedroom. They also found blood right on that reciprocating saw we just mentioned. And most critically, forensic testing quickly confirmed that the DNA from both the carpet and the saw was a direct match to Mamta Kafle Bhatt. So based entirely on these physical discoveries, prosecutors alleged that the residence was the site of a violent struggle and a subsequent attempt to conceal a crime.
The compounding weight of all this evidence, I mean, the lies, the surveillance footage, the vehicle data, and of course the DNA, it culminated in some very severe legal action. In December 2024, Naresh Bhatt was formally charged with murder and the physical defilement of a dead body. And given the sheer severity of the findings, he was ordered to be held without bail.
That brings us to our next major update. May 2026, the new revelation.
For a long time, this case just kind of sat in a state of grim anticipation while both sides prepared for court. But then, nearly 2 years after Mamta vanished, a significant new development completely shook up the ongoing proceedings. As you know, even while a case is pending, technology just keeps evolving. Advanced secondary testing was actually performed on the existing evidence, and during this process, investigators discovered human hairs on that exact same reciprocating saw. This new evidence is currently undergoing some really rigorous testing. Now think about what this means. For the prosecutors, if this matches Mamta, it's yet another unbreakable link in their circumstantial chain. But for the defense, it represents a massive, sudden new hurdle that's going to require new experts and entirely new analysis.
And that leads us perfectly into the final phase of our explainer, trial without a body. All of this incredibly complex evidence gathering guides us directly into what is going to be a monumental courtroom battle defined by one central, inescapable fact. This is a trial without a body. Looking at the defense side, they successfully argued for a trial delay of over a year simply because they needed time to process what they called massive amounts of evidence. We're talking about reviewing 44 separate search warrants and analyzing 50 physical searches. It's a huge undertaking. On the flip side, the prosecution is gearing up for a massive presentation of their own. They are planning to call 25 expert witnesses. They're even bringing in an FBI A-team specialist whose sole job is to testify on pinpointing exact physical movements using cell tower and GPS data. So make no mistake, both sides are digging in for an incredibly technical trial.
Because of that overwhelming volume of evidence, plus the new forensic discoveries we just talked about, the trial has been officially pushed out. October 2026 is the newly scheduled date. And that date really stands as a marathon finish line. It's a long, agonizing wait for justice, particularly for Mamta's family and the one-year-old daughter she left behind.
So the crucial point here is exactly how the prosecution plans to overcome that ultimate hurdle of not having the victim's remains. Their stance, which we're impartially framing here, is that the circumstantial evidence, meaning the blood, the DNA, the store purchases, and that rock-solid GPS data, is so overwhelming that a body is simply not required for justice. And, legal experts often point out that no-body cases, while they are notoriously difficult, can actually be incredibly powerful for juries. The suspicious behavior of a spouse, combined with hard, undeniable forensic evidence of violence, that can create a very compelling narrative.
Which leaves us with this final, truly profound question to consider. Can you convict a man of murder when the victim's remains have never been found? As the heartbreaking search for Mamta Kafle Bhatt continues in landfills and trash disposal sites across Virginia, this question is going to be the absolute focal point when that gavel finally falls in October 2026. The collision of digital tracking, forensic biology, and the heavy legal burden of proof are all going to be put to the ultimate test. Thank you so much for joining me today to unpack this complex dossier, and I highly encourage you to keep a very close eye on how this unprecedented trial unfolds.